They say in the world of the ultra-rich, there are three types of people: those who make the money, those who marry the money, and those who serve the money. Emma Hayes was the third kind. At 26 years old, she perfected the art of being invisible. She moved through the gilded dining rooms of Manhattan's elite like a shadow, silent, efficient, unnoticed. She learned that rich people don't see waitresses. They see furniture. Moving, breathing furniture that refills wine glasses and clears plates without making eye contact. And that invisibility? That was her superpower. Because the thing about being invisible is that people forget you have eyes. They forget you have ears. They forget you have a brain that notices when something is wrong. Tonight, Emma was working the private dining room at Aurelio's, the kind of restaurant where a single meal costs more than her monthly rent. The kind of place where mob bosses broker deals over osso buco, where senators meet their mistresses over champagne, where secrets are traded like currency between courses. Tonight, she was serving table 12. And tonight, everything she thought she knew about her job was about to change. Because sitting at table 12 was Adriana Castellani. If you lived in New York and read the society pages, you knew Adriana. She was everywhere: charity galas, museum openings, fashion week front rows. She had the kind of beauty that looked expensive: platinum blonde hair, flawless skin, designer everything. She walked with a crystal-top cane, a tragic accessory that only made her more glamorous. The story was well known. 3 years ago, a terrible car accident. Severe spinal injury. Her left side partially paralyzed. She could barely use her left hand, could barely walk without assistance. But she was so brave, so inspiring. She never complained. She just smiled through the pain and continued living her best life. Or so everyone thought. Sitting across from her was Marcus Kane, tech billionaire, venture capitalist, owner of half the startups in Silicon Alley. He was 52, recently divorced, and according to the gossip blogs, completely smitten with Adriana. They'd been dating for 8 months. The engagement announcement was expected any day. Emma had served them 3 times before. Each time, Adriana had been difficult. Not rude exactly, but demanding in that specific way rich people are when they want to remind you of your place. She'd send back food that was perfectly cooked. She complained that the temperature was wrong, the lighting was wrong, the music was too loud. She'd make Emma refill her water glass 7 times in an hour, always with that saccharine smile that said, "I know you hate me, but you have to be nice to me anyway." But Marcus? Marcus was kind. He apologized for Adriana's behavior. He tipped generously. He looked Emma in the eye when he said thank you. He looked tired, like a man who'd worked hard his whole life and was finally trying to enjoy it, but couldn't quite figure out how. Tonight, as Emma approached their table with menus, she noticed something immediately. Marcus looked sick. His skin had a grayish pallor. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his water glass. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. When he spoke, his voice was hoarse, strained. "Just water for now, please," Marcus said, wincing as if the act of speaking hurt. "I'm not feeling well." "Poor darling," Adriana cooed, reaching across the table with her right hand to pat his arm. Her left hand rested in her lap, limp and still, as always. "You've been working too hard. All that stress. I keep telling you to slow down, but you never listen." She turned to Emma with that perfect practice smile. "He's been having terrible headaches. Fatigue. The doctors can't figure out what's wrong. I'm so worried." Emma nodded sympathetically, her trained waitress face in place. But her mind was racing. She'd seen those symptoms before. Her aunt had died of congestive heart failure 5 years ago, and in the months before her death, she'd looked exactly like Marcus looked now. Gray skin, exhaustion, confusion. "I'll get your water right away," Emma said, retreating to the service station. As she filled the crystal pitcher, she noticed something that made her pause. Through the kitchen pass-through window, she had a clear view of table 12. Marcus had his phone out, checking something. Adriana was supposedly adjusting her napkin with her right hand. But Emma saw Adriana's left hand, the paralyzed one, move. It was quick, subtle. While Marcus was distracted, Adriana reached into her designer handbag with her left hand, pulled out a small vial and with perfectly coordinated fingers, unscrewed the cap. She glanced around quickly, checking to make sure no one was watching, then dumped the contents into Marcus's water glass. The entire movement took maybe 3 seconds. Smooth, practiced, efficient. Then the left hand went limp again, flopping back onto her lap like a dead fish. Emma stood frozen, pitcher in hand, her heart hammering against her ribs. That hand wasn't paralyzed. That hand moved with perfect motor control. That hand had just put something in Marcus's drink. Adriana looked up, caught Emma staring, and for a split second, their eyes locked. The warm, sympathetic smile vanished. In its place was something cold, calculating, dangerous. Then, like flipping a switch, the smile returned. Adriana waved with her right hand, the sweet girlfriend act back in place. But Emma had seen, and Adriana knew she'd seen. Emma walked back to the table on autopilot, her hand steady even though her mind was screaming. She set the water pitcher down. Marcus reached for his glass, the poison glass. "Wait," Emma heard herself say. Both of them looked up. I'm so sorry, sir, but I think there might be a chip in this glass. Let me get you a fresh one." She grabbed the glass before Marcus could protest, her fingers closing around the crystal. The liquid inside had a faint, bitter smell she couldn't quite place. Adriana's eyes followed Emma's every movement, that perfect smile frozen on her face like a mask. "How clumsy of the staff," Adriana said, her voice sweet as honey laced with arsenic. "You'd think at these prices, they'd be more careful. What's your name, dear?" "Emma, ma'am." "Emma." Adriana repeated it slowly, like she was memorizing it. "Well, Emma, please do be more careful. We wouldn't want any more accidents." The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Emma retreated to the kitchen, the poisoned water glass clutched in her shaking hands. She just witnessed something impossible, something terrifying, and she had no idea what to do about it. Because who would believe a waitress over Adriana Castellani, beloved socialite, tragic disability advocate, fixture of New York high society? But Emma knew what she'd seen. That hand had moved. That vial had been opened. That poison had been poured. And if Emma didn't do something, Marcus Kane was going to die. The question was, what could a nobody waitress do against one of the most powerful women in New York? The answer would come in the most unexpected way possible. With a falling fork, a hidden tattoo, and a reflex that couldn't be faked. Before we dive in, quick question. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments. And here's the big question. If you were Emma and saw someone poison a drink, would you confront them immediately, call the police, or try to gather evidence first? Let me know what you do. Now, let's see how this nightmare unfolds. Emma stood in the cramped server station, staring at the water glass in her hands like it was a live grenade. The pale liquid inside looked completely normal. Crystal clear, odorless, or nearly so, just that faint bitter scent she'd noticed when she grabbed it. But she knew something was in there. She'd watched Adriana pour it with her own eyes. "You okay?" Tony, the head waiter, asked as he breezed past with a tray of appetizers. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," Emma lied automatically. I think this glass might be contaminated. Should I show it to Chef?" Tony glanced at the glass. "Looks fine to me. But if you're worried, dump it and grab a fresh one. We got a full house tonight. No time for paranoia." He disappeared into the dining room before Emma could respond. She looked at the glass again. She could dump it, pretend nothing happened, serve Marcus fresh water, and hope that Adriana didn't try again. But what if she did try again? What if next time Emma wasn't watching? She needed proof. She needed evidence. Emma pulled out her phone, ancient iPhone with a cracked screen, the best she could afford on her salary, and carefully photographed the glass from multiple angles. Then she found an empty wine bottle in a recycling bin, rinsed it out, and carefully poured the contaminated water inside, sealing it with a cork. She labeled it with a piece of masking tape. Table 12, 8:47 p.m., 11/15. Then she grabbed a fresh glass, filled it with clean water, and headed back into the dining room. Her heart was pounding so hard she was certain everyone could hear it. When she reached table 12, Adriana was in full performance mode. She was dabbing at Marcus's forehead with a napkin, cooing sympathetically as he slumped in his chair, looking progressively worse. "I really think we should skip dinner and go straight to the emergency room," Adriana was saying, her voice dripping with concern. "Darling, you look terrible. This is more than just stress." "I'm fine," Marcus insisted, though he clearly wasn't. His hands shook as he tried to pick up his menu. "It's just a migraine. I've been getting them all week. The doctors said it's probably tension." "The doctors are idiots," Adriana snapped. Then she caught herself, softening her tone. "I just mean, they're not taking this seriously enough. What if it's something serious? What if—" She broke off, pressing her right hand to her mouth as if fighting back tears. Her left hand lay useless in her lap, the picture of disability. Emma set down the freshwater glass. "Here you are, sir. Clean glass." Marcus looked up at her with grateful, exhausted eyes. "Thank you, Emma." He reached for the glass. Adriana's hand shot out, her right hand, and grabbed his wrist. "Wait, darling. Let me taste it first. After that glass incident, I don't trust anything. What if the water line is contaminated?" She reached for the glass with her right hand, raised it to her lips, took a small sip, and set it back down. "Tastes fine," she announced. "You can drink it." The performance was flawless. The concerned girlfriend, so worried about her sick boyfriend that she'd test his water for him. But Emma noticed something. When Adriana had sipped the water, her throat hadn't moved. She hadn't actually swallowed. She'd held the liquid in her mouth and discreetly spit it back into the glass when she set it down. A classic poisoner's trick. Emma felt ice flood her veins. This woman wasn't just poisoning Marcus. She was practiced at it. She knew exactly what she was doing. "I'll give you both a few more minutes to look over the menu," Emma said, her voice steady despite the terror coursing through her. She turned to leave, but Adriana's voice stopped her. "Oh, Emma, one more thing." Emma turned back. Adriana was smiling, but her eyes were cold as winter. "I dropped my napkin earlier, and I couldn't quite reach it with my condition." She gestured vaguely at her left side. "Would you mind terribly picking it up for me?" It was a test. Emma knew it immediately. Adriana was asserting dominance, making Emma kneel, reminding her of her place. But it was also an opportunity. Emma knelt down beside the table, reaching for the napkin that had somehow found its way under Adriana's chair. And that's when she saw it. Adriana was wearing an elegant silk dress that ended just below the knee. Designer heels. But from this low angle, Emma could see something Adriana normally kept hidden. Her left ankle. There was a tattoo there. Small, faded, partially covered by makeup, but still visible if you knew where to look. A black widow spider. Inside a dagger. With 3 small tally marks beneath it. Emma had grown up in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn, in a neighborhood where Russian organized crime ran deep. She recognized prison tattoos when she saw them. And she recognized that specific tattoo. It was the mark of the Widow Syndicate, a loose network of female con artists who specialized in marrying wealthy men, poisoning them slowly to mimic natural illness, and inheriting their fortunes. The spider meant Black Widow. The dagger meant killer for hire. The 3 tally marks meant 3 successful kills. 3 dead husbands. Emma grabbed the napkin with trembling fingers and stood up, careful to keep her face neutral. "Here you are, ma'am." "Thank you, dear," Adriana said sweetly. "You know, you really should be more observant. You missed a spot when you were cleaning earlier. There's dust on the light fixture above our table. I expect better from a restaurant of this caliber." Emma looked up automatically, checking the fixture even though she knew it was perfectly clean. It was a distraction technique. Make the target look away, keep them off balance. "I'll let management know right away," Emma said. As she walked away, she felt Adriana's eyes boring into her back. She knew. Somehow, Adriana knew that Emma had seen too much. Emma made it through the next hour on autopilot. She served courses, refilled glasses, cleared plates. But her mind was racing. She needed to warn Marcus. But how? If she approached him directly, Adriana would intervene. If she called the police, they'd ask for evidence she didn't have. A bottle of water and a photograph of a tattoo weren't enough to arrest someone, especially not someone as connected as Adriana Castellani. She needed more proof. She needed to understand Adriana's pattern. During her break, Emma locked herself in the employee bathroom and pulled out her phone. She searched Adriana Castellani background. The results were exactly what she expected. Society page features, charity event photos, disability advocacy work. Adriana was a darling of the New York elite. But then Emma tried a different search. Adriana Castellani previous relationships. That's when things got interesting. There was a brief mention in a 3-year-old gossip column. Socialite Adriana Castellani, formerly Adriana Wolf, was recently widowed after the tragic passing of her husband, real estate developer Gregory Wolf. Friends say she's devastated but determined to honor his memory through continued charitable work. Formerly Adriana Wolf. Emma searched for Gregory Wolf. She found his obituary. Gregory Wolf, 58, died suddenly of heart failure at his home in the Hamptons. He is survived by his wife, Adriana. Heart failure. Sudden. No mention of prior health issues. Emma kept digging. She found an older name, Adriana Volkov, wife of tech entrepreneur David Volkov. David Volkov's obituary. Died unexpectedly at age 51 from complications of an undiagnosed heart condition. And even older, Adriana Sokolov, grieving widow of oil executive Mikhail Sokolov. Mikhail Sokolov's death suffered sudden cardiac arrest at his estate in Connecticut. He was 49. 3 husbands, 3 sudden deaths, 3 massive inheritances. And now she was working on husband number 4. Emma's hands shook as she screenshotted everything. She had pattern. She had motive. But she still didn't have proof that would hold up in court. A knock on a bathroom door made her jump. Emma. It was Tony's voice. You've got a table waiting. Table 12 is asking for you specifically. Adriana says she wants to apologize for being difficult earlier. Emma's blood ran cold. Apologize? Sure. She flushed the toilet for cover, washed her hands, and stepped out. Tony was waiting in the hallway, looking annoyed. Whatever's going on with you tonight, get it together. We can't afford complaints from high-profile tables. I know. I'm sorry. She walked back into the dining room, her mind racing through options. When she reached table 12, Marcus was slumped in his chair, barely conscious. His water glass was empty. He'd drunk it all. Adriana was leaning close to him, stroking his hair with her right hand, the picture of a devoted girlfriend. Oh, Emma, thank God, Adriana said, her voice laced with fake panic. I think we need to call an ambulance. Marcus just collapsed. It happened so suddenly. 1 minute he was fine, and then she broke off, pressing her hand to her mouth dramatically. Emma knelt beside Marcus, checking his pulse. It was rapid and thready. His skin was clammy, his breathing shallow. These were the exact symptoms of digitalis poisoning, a drug derived from foxglove that causes heart failure and mimics natural cardiac events. I'll call 911, Emma said, pulling out her phone. Adriana's hand shot out and grabbed Emma's wrist. The grip was iron strong, too strong for someone who claimed to have limited mobility. No, Adriana said, her voice dropping low so only Emma could hear. Let's not cause a scene. I'll take him to the hospital myself. My driver is right outside. She was still smiling, but her eyes were dead. Emma understood immediately. If Adriana got Marcus in her car, he'd be dead before they reached any hospital. She makes sure of it. Restaurant policy, Emma said, loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. Any medical emergency requires 911. I'm calling now. She hit the button before Adriana could stop her. 911, what's your emergency? I'm at Aurelio's restaurant in Tribeca. We have a patron who's collapsed. Male, early 50s, symptoms of cardiac distress. We need an ambulance immediately. Adriana's eyes narrowed to slits. You're making a big mistake, she whispered. But Emma just smiled. The ambulance will be here in 5 minutes, ma'am. I'm sure Marcus will be fine. What Emma didn't know was that she'd just signed her own death warrant. End of Act 1. 15-second viewer engagement. Emma just saved Marcus's life, for now. But Adriana is not going to let this go. Quick question. Do you think Emma should tell the police about the poisoning right now, or wait to gather more evidence? Drop your answer below. Let's see what happens next. The ambulance arrived in 4 minutes. Paramedics rushed in, loaded Marcus onto a gurney, hooked him up to monitors. His vital signs were unstable, heart rate erratic, blood pressure dropping. They asked questions, medical history, allergies, what he'd eaten or drunk. Adriana played her role perfectly. The terrified girlfriend gripping Marcus's hand with her right hand, always the right, tears streaming down her perfect face. He's been so stressed lately, she told the paramedics. Working 18-hour days. I kept telling him to slow down. He's been having headaches, fatigue. The doctor said it was just stress, but I knew something was wrong. I could feel it. She turned to Emma with red-rimmed eyes. Thank God you called. You saved his life. The words were sweet. The eyes were venomous. I'm riding with him, Adriana announced, gathering her designer purse and that crystal-top cane. She limped after the gurney, the picture of devoted love and tragic disability. Before she left, she turned back to Emma one last time. I'll be sure to tell Marcus how helpful you were tonight. In fact, I insist on getting your full name. I want to make sure the restaurant knows what excellent service you provided. It sounded like gratitude. It was a threat. Emma Hayes, Emma said, because refusing would cause a scene. Emma Hayes, Adriana repeated, committing it to memory. Such a sweet girl. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other again very soon. Then she was gone, the ambulance doors closing behind her with a final, ominous thud. Tony appeared at Emma's elbow. What the hell happened? He collapsed. Heart issue, I think. Did he eat something that triggered it? Because if he did, and he sues us. He barely ate anything, Emma interrupted. It's not the food. Tony exhaled in relief. Okay, good. Still, write up an incident report before you leave tonight. Corporate will want documentation. He hurried off to deal with the other tables, leaving Emma standing in the middle of the dining room, her heart racing. She had maybe 12 hours before Adriana figured out how to eliminate the witness who'd seen too much. Emma's shift ended at midnight. She changed out of her uniform in the employee locker room, her hands shaking as she pulled on her jeans and hoodie. She needed to report this. She needed to tell someone. But tell them what exactly? That she saw a woman with a paralyzed hand move her fingers? That she found a tattoo that might be gang-related? That 3 previous husbands had died of natural causes? None of it would hold up. Not against someone like Adriana, with her money, her connections, her lawyers. Emma needed irrefutable proof. She needed the water sample tested. She needed medical records. She needed... Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Emma stared at it for a long moment before answering. Hello. Emma Hayes. The voice was male, professional, emotionless. You made a serious error in judgment tonight. Who is this? Someone who works for someone you've upset. Someone who doesn't appreciate waitresses meddling in things that don't concern them. Emma's mouth went dry. I don't know what you're talking about. Marcus Kane is currently at Mount Sinai. His condition is stable. He's asking questions about what happened tonight. Questions about his water. Questions about whether someone might have tampered with his drink. Emma's heart leaped. Marcus suspected. He believed her. Those questions, the voice continued, are going to stop. Because if they don't, if Marcus pursues this, if the police get involved, if anyone starts investigating my employer, there will be consequences. Are you threatening me? I'm informing you of reality. Emma Hayes, age 26, lives in a studio apartment in Bushwick, works at Aurelio's, has a younger brother named Danny, who's a freshman at Hunter College. Your mother, Patricia Hayes, lives in a nursing home in Queens. Stage for breast cancer. Very expensive care. Emma felt ice flood her entire body. They'd researched her. They knew everything. You leave my family out of this. That depends entirely on you. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, you're going to call in sick to work. You're going to stay home, keep your mouth shut, and forget everything you think you saw tonight. Marcus will recover. The doctors will call it stress-induced cardiac event. Life will go on, and your family will be safe. And if I don't, then your brother has a tragic accident. Your mother's hospice care funding mysteriously disappears. And you discover that waitresses who ask too many questions sometimes don't make it home from their subway commute. The line went dead. Emma sat in the empty locker room, phone clutched in her trembling hand. This was real. This wasn't just a con artist. This was organized. Professional. Adriana had an entire network supporting her. Emma had two choices: walk away and let Marcus die, or fight back and risk everything. She thought about her father, dead 7 years now, killed by a drunk driver who'd bought his way out of consequences with expensive lawyers. She thought about her mother, dying slowly in a facility that cost $8,000 a month. Money Emma could barely scrape together even with double shifts. She thought about Danny, working 2 jobs while going to school, trying to build a future. She thought about Marcus Kane, kind and generous, slowly being murdered by a woman he trusted. And she made her choice. She wasn't walking away. But she couldn't do this alone. Emma took 3 trains to get to Brighton Beach, arriving at her childhood neighborhood just after 2 a.m. The streets were quiet, but a few late-night businesses were still open. The Russian bakeries, the corner bars, the places where old men played chess and younger men conducted business that never saw daylight. She walked to a small electronics repair shop wedged between a pawn shop and a nail salon. The sign said closed, but Emma knocked anyway, using a specific rhythm. 3 quick, 2 slow, 1 quick. The door opened. A man in his 60s, built like a bear, with prison tattoos covering his arms and a face that had seen too many fights. Emma, what the hell are you doing here at this hour? Uncle Yuri, I need help. Yuri Volkov wasn't really her uncle. He was her father's childhood friend, a man who'd spent 15 years in Russian prisons before immigrating to Brooklyn and opening this shop. He fixed phones and computers for the neighborhood. He also had connections to networks Emma didn't ask about. Come in. Quickly. Inside, the shop smelled of soldering irons and coffee. Yuri locked the door behind them and gestured to a back room filled with computer equipment. Talk, he commanded. Emma told him everything. The water glass, the tattoo, the dead husbands, the phone call. Yuri listened in silence, his expression growing darker with each detail. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. The spider and dagger, he finally said. I know this mark. They call themselves the Widow Syndicate. Started in Moscow in the 90s, spread to Brighton Beach in the early 2000s. Very sophisticated. They recruit women from intelligence backgrounds, KGB, FSB, and train them in long-term infiltration. They marry targets, poison them slowly over months to mimic natural illness, inherit everything, then disappear and reinvent themselves. How do they get away with it? Because they're patient. Because they choose targets with no close family to ask questions. Because they use poisons that mimic heart disease, stroke, cancer. And because they have fixers, people who clean up loose ends. Like witnesses. Yuri looked at her seriously. Emma, if you pursue this, you're declaring war on a criminal organization with resources, connections, and a very long reach. They will come after you. They will come after your family. They already threatened Danny and Mom. Then they've shown you what they're capable of. Yuri stood, paced the small room. But here's what they don't know. You're not just some waitress. You're Dimitri Hayes' daughter. Your father was the toughest union organizer in Brooklyn. He didn't back down from mobsters, corrupt politicians, or corporate thugs. That's in your blood. He pulled out a locked drawer and removed several items. A small recording device, a portable testing kit, and a burner phone. This, he held up the testing kit, can detect common poisons. Not admissible in court, but it will tell you if that water sample you took has digitalis, arsenic, or cyanide. This, the recording device, is military grade. Voice-activated, encrypted storage. And this, the phone, is untraceable. Use it for anything related to this investigation. Emma took the items, overwhelmed. Yuri, I can't pay you for this. You don't pay. This is family. He gripped her shoulder. But Emma, listen to me. You cannot do this alone. You need allies. You need someone on the inside who can help you. Who? The police won't believe me without proof. Not the police. Marcus Kane. He's suspicious already. He asked about his water. That means his instincts are working. You need to reach him, show him what you know, convince him to protect himself while you gather evidence. How do I even get to him? He's in a hospital, probably with Adriana, right beside him. Yuri smiled grimly. Then you go to the hospital. Not as Emma Hayes, waitress. as someone else, someone with legitimate access. For hours later, Emma walked into Mount Sinai Hospital wearing scrubs she'd borrowed from a friend who worked in radiology. Her hair was pulled back, she wore minimal makeup, and she carried a clipboard that made her look official. She'd learned the layout from the hospital website. Cardiac care was on the 7th floor. Visiting hours didn't start until 10 a.m., but medical staff had access 24/7. She took the stairs instead of the elevator. Fewer cameras, fewer witnesses. At the 7th floor nurse's station, she kept her head down, pretending to review paperwork. She spotted Marcus's room number on the patient board, 714. Room 714 was at the end of the hallway. Through the window and the door, Emma could see Marcus in the bed, hooked up to monitors. His eyes were closed, and sitting in the chair beside his bed, head resting against the wall in apparent sleep, was Adriana. Even sleeping, she was beautiful, perfect, untouchable. Her left hand rested in her lap, motionless. Emma watched for 5 minutes, waiting. Finally, a nurse approached Adriana and gently woke her. "Ma'am, we need to run some tests. It'll be about 30 minutes. There's a family waiting room down the hall if you'd like to get some coffee." Adriana's performance was immediate. She woke with a start, disoriented and vulnerable. "Is he okay? Did something happen?" "He's stable. We just need to do routine monitoring. You should take a break. You've been here all night." Adriana hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, but if anything changes, we'll get you immediately." Emma ducked into an empty room as Adriana limped past, leaning heavily on her cane. The moment she turned the corner, Emma slipped into room 714. Marcus's eyes opened immediately. "Oh," he started. "My name is Emma Hayes. I was your waitress tonight at Aurelio's. I need to talk to you about what happened." Marcus struggled to sit up. The monitors beeped as his heart rate increased. "You're the one who called the ambulance. The doctor said you saved my life." "I did. But Mr. Kane, you're still in danger. Your girlfriend is poisoning you." The words hung in the air between them. Marcus stared at her. That's insane. Adriana loves me. She's been taking care of me. Has she been making you special teas? Herbal remedies? Supplements for your health?" Marcus went pale. "How did you know that?" "Because that's how she's been doing it. Slow poisoning over months, making it look like stress, like a natural illness. I saw her put something in your water tonight. I saved a sample. I had it tested." Emma pulled out her phone, showing him photos of the testing kit results. Digitalis, a cardiac drug that causes heart failure when given in high doses. "This is crazy. Why would she?" "Because you're husband number 4. She's done this 3 times before. Different names, different cities, same pattern. Marry a wealthy man, poison him slowly, inherit everything." She showed him the obituaries, the pattern, the timeline. Marcus's face went from disbelief to horror to fury. "I trusted her. I was going to marry her. She has a tattoo on her ankle. A black widow spider with tally marks. 3 of them. You would have been number 4. Marcus was silent, processing. His hands gripped the hospital sheets. "The police won't believe me. I'm a waitress with a water sample and some internet research. She's Adriana Castellani, beloved socialite. She has lawyers, connections, and people willing to kill to protect her. She already threatened my family." "Then what do? We gather proof. Real proof. Medical records, financial documents, anything that connects her to her previous identities. And we catch her in the act." "How?" Emma took a breath. "You play along. You pretend to believe her lies. You get her to confess on tape. She'll never confess. She will if she thinks she's won. If she thinks you're dying and no one suspects her." Emma pulled out the recording device Yuri had given her. "This is military grade. Voice activated. If you can get her talking about the others, about her plan." The door handle turned. Emma's heart stopped. Adriana was back early. Under the bed, Marcus hissed. "Now!" Emma dropped and rolled onto the hospital bed just as the door opened. Through the gap between the bed and the floor, Emma could see Adriana's designer heels clicking across the tile. "Darling, you're awake." Adriana's voice was honey-sweet. "How are you feeling?" "Tired. Confused. The doctors can't figure out what's wrong with me." "Well, we'll get to the bottom of it. I've been doing research on your symptoms. I think it might be heavy metal poisoning. There's a specialist I know, very exclusive. He can run tests the hospital won't think of. Emma's blood ran cold. Adriana was setting up the next phase, getting Marcus away from the hospital into the care of someone she controlled. I don't know if I can afford a specialist right now, Marcus said weakly. Don't be silly. I'll pay for it. You're going to be my husband soon. What's mine is yours. Under the bed, Emma held her breath as Adriana moved closer. If she dropped something, if she looked down? Actually, there's something I've been meaning to talk to you about, Adriana said. The prenup. What about it? I know your lawyers are insisting on it, but darling, with my disability, I'm worried. What if something happens to you? What if I can't work, can't support myself? I need assurances. Adriana, you know I'll take care of you. But what if you can't? What if your health continues to decline? I need to know I'll be protected. Emma could hear the calculation in Adriana's voice. She was setting up the financial angle, making sure she'd get everything when Marcus died. A phone rang. Marcus's phone on the bedside table. Don't answer it, Adriana said quickly. It might be important. It's my business partner. Let go to voicemail. You need rest. But Marcus had already grabbed the phone. Hello. Yes, this is Marcus. What? When did this happen? His face went pale. I understand. Thank you for letting me know. He hung up, looking shaken. What's wrong? Adriana asked, concern dripping from every word. That was my attorney. There was a break-in at my office last night. My safe was opened. Financial documents, passwords to my accounts. Everything's been compromised. Under the bed, Emma's mind raced. This wasn't a random break-in. This was Adriana's network, moving faster than expected. Oh my God, Adriana breathed. Do they know who did it? No, but the security footage was erased. Professional job. We should focus on your health right now. The business can wait. The business is my life, Adriana. If someone has access to my accounts, I'll handle it, Adriana said firmly. You gave me power of attorney for medical decisions, remember? Let me extend that to financial as well. Just temporarily, while you recover. I can work with your lawyers, secure everything, make sure nothing else is stolen. There it was. The trap closing. I don't know, Marcus said. Darling, I'm just trying to help. You're sick, you're vulnerable. Let me protect you. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then, okay, you're right. I'll call my lawyer in the morning and set it up. Emma could practically hear Adriana's smile. You rest now, my love. I'm going to run home and get some of that herbal tea I made for you. The one that helps you sleep. I'll be back in an hour. She kissed Marcus's forehead. Emma could see her bend down from under the bed, and then those designer heels clicked across the floor and out the door. Emma waited 30 seconds, then rolled out from under the bed. She's going to kill you tonight, Emma said. That tea will have enough digitalis to stop your heart. By morning, you'll be dead. Marcus's face was grim. I know. I recognized her voice when she was talking about the prenup. It was different, harder. Her accent slipped for just a second. She sounded Russian. We need to move now. You're not safe here. Where can I go? She knows everything about me. My homes, my offices, my friends. Emma thought fast. I know a place. Someone who can keep you safe while we figure this out. But we have to leave right now before she gets back. Marcus started pulling out IVs. Help me get dressed. 20 minutes later, Emma and Marcus were in the back of an Uber, Marcus wearing borrowed scrubs, heading toward Brighton Beach. Emma's phone, her regular phone, not the burner, buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You made your choice. Now live with the consequences. The war had officially begun. Yuri's electronics shop had a back apartment that few people knew about. It was small, windowless, and smelled of old coffee and cigarette smoke, but it was off the grid. No lease, no utility bills in anyone's name. A ghost space. Marcus Kane, tech billionaire and venture capitalist, sat on a threadbare couch in a Brooklyn basement, looking completely out of place and utterly terrified. I should be dead, he said for the third time, if you hadn't switched that water glass. You're not dead, Emma said firmly. And you're not going to die. But we need to work fast. Adriana will realize you're gone soon, and when she does, she'll come after both of us. Marcus finished. He looked at Emma with new respect. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You're risking your life, your family's safety. Because it's right, Emma said simply, and because nobody else was going to stop her. Yuri entered the room, carrying a laptop. I've been digging into Adriana's background. The woman is a ghost. Every identity goes back maybe 3 years, then nothing. No childhood photos, no school records, no employment history before she appears fully formed as a socialite. Can you find her real name? Marcus asked. Working on it, but I found something interesting. Yuri turned the laptop around. 2 weeks ago, someone accessed sealed court records from a case in Connecticut. Gregory Wolf's estate. That was husband number 2. Who accessed them? The request was flagged as coming from a law firm that doesn't exist. But I traced the IP address. It originated from your office, Marcus. Marcus went pale. My office? But I never. No, but someone with access to your network did. Someone who needed to make sure there was nothing in those records that could connect Adriana Castellani to Adriana Wolf. She's been in my office, Marcus realized. She has my passwords. She's been cleaning up her trail using my own resources. And setting you up, Emma added. If anyone investigates after your death, they'll find evidence of you accessing information about her previous husband. It'll look like you were suspicious of her, maybe even obsessed. It gives her motive to claim self-defense if things go wrong. Marcus stood up, pacing the small room. I need to go to the police. Now, with everything we know, we don't have enough, Yuri interrupted. A water sample tested with a home kit? Internet searches about dead husbands? A tattoo that might mean something, but isn't documented anywhere official? A good lawyer would tear that apart in minutes. Then what do? Emma pulled out the recording device. We get her to confess. On tape, in her own words. Ow! She thinks I'm still in the hospital, dying from her poisoning. Exactly. You call her. Tell her you know the truth. Make her think you've written a confession, left it with your lawyer, set to be released if anything happens to you. Back her into a corner where her only option is to admit everything and negotiate. Marcus shook his head. She'll never fall for that. She will if she thinks you're desperate. If you sound scared, broken, willing to make a deal to save your own life. Emma met his eyes. You offer her money. A massive payout to disappear. Make her believe she can take the money and run. That it's easier than killing you and risking exposure. And when she shows up to collect, we record everything. Then we take it to the police, to the FBI, to every news outlet in the city. We make so much noise that her fixers can't silence us all. Yuri nodded slowly. It could work, but it's risky. If she suspects a trap, if she brings her people, then we make sure we have backup too, Emma said. People who won't be scared off. People who understand how to handle this kind of threat. Yuri and Emma exchanged a look. They both knew what that meant. Marcus caught it. What are you not telling me? My uncle has connections, Emma said carefully. To people in Brighton Beach who, let's say, they don't appreciate the Widow Syndicate operating in their territory. They've been wanting to shut down this operation for years, but they needed proof. We give them Adriana's confession. They give us protection. You're talking about the Russian mob. I'm talking about community leaders who maintain order in their neighborhood, Yuri corrected diplomatically, and who don't like outside criminals conducting murder-for-hire operations in Brighton Beach. Bad for business. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. This is insane. 24 hours ago, I was a successful businessman planning to propose to my girlfriend. Now I'm hiding in a basement, plotting to entrap a serial killer with help from the Russian mafia. Welcome to Brooklyn, Emma said. Despite everything, Marcus laughed. It was a slightly hysterical sound, but it broke the tension. Okay, he said. Let's do it. How do we set the trap? The plan was simple. Too simple, which made Emma nervous. Marcus would call Adriana from an untraceable burner phone. He'd tell her he knew everything. The poisoning, the previous husbands, the fake disability. But he wouldn't threaten her. Instead, he'd offer her a deal. $10 million to disappear. Clean break, no questions, no police involvement. The recording device would capture everything. They'd arrange to meet at a neutral location, a closed restaurant that Yuri's contact controlled. Adriana would think she was walking into a simple money exchange. Instead, she'd be walking into an interrogation that would get her to confirm everything on tape. She won't come alone, Yuri warned. She'll bring her fixers. Probably armed. Then we make sure we have more people, Emma said. Marcus made the call at 3 p.m., exactly 36 hours after his collapse at the restaurant. Emma and Yuri listened on speakerphone. It rang 4 times before Adriana answered. Marcus. Her voice was pure panic. Oh my God, Marcus, where are you? I went back to the hospital and you were gone. The nurses said you checked yourself out against medical advice. I've been so worried. Cut the act, Adriana. I know. Silence. When she spoke again, her voice was completely different. Cold. Flat. The accent gone. You know what exactly? Everything. The Digitalis. Gregory Wolf. David Volkov. Mikhail Sokolov. The Widow Syndicate. I know you're not disabled. I know you've been poisoning me for months. And I know that if I go back to that hospital, we're going to finish the job. Another long silence. You can't prove any of that, Adriana finally said. I have the water sample from the restaurant. I had it tested. I have your medical records, the real ones from before you became Adriana Castellani. I have financial documentation showing money transfers from your previous husband's estates. And I have it all with my attorney, set to be released to the FBI and every major news outlet if anything happens to me. It was a bluff. They had fragments, pieces, but not enough for a solid case. But Adriana didn't know that. What do you want? She asked. I want to live, and I'm willing to pay for it. $10 million. Cash. Untraceable. You take it and disappear. New city, new identity, new hunting ground. We both walk away. How do I know you won't go to the police anyway? Because I don't want the embarrassment. I don't want the world knowing I was stupid enough to fall for this. I don't want my business partners, my investors, questioning my judgment. You disappear. I recover quietly. We both move on. Emma could hear Adriana thinking, calculating. 20 million, Adriana said. 15. That's my final offer. Where and when? Tonight, 9 p.m. There's a restaurant in Sheepshead Bay called Odessa. It's closed for renovations, but I have access. Come alone, bring a bag for the cash, and we make the exchange. I'm not stupid enough to come alone. Bring one person. I'll have one person with me. We keep it clean, we keep it quick, we both walk away. A pause. Then, fine. But Marcus? If this is a trap, if you've involved the police, if there are cameras or witnesses, I will burn down everything you love. Your business, your reputation, your family. I will destroy you so completely that you'll wish I'd just poisoned you. No trap, just money and mutual assured destruction. 9 p.m. Marcus hung up. His hands were shaking. She's coming, Emma said. Yeah, and she's going to try to kill us both the moment she has the money. I know, Emma said. That's what we're counting on. The Odessa was a Soviet-era restaurant that had been a Brighton Beach landmark for decades. Currently closed for renovations, it was actually a front for Yuri's associates, a place where business was conducted away from prying eyes. By 8 p.m., Emma, Marcus, Yuri, and 4 other men were inside, preparing. The restaurant's main dining room was set up like a stage. A single table in the center with 2 chairs. Recording devices hidden in the light fixtures, the walls, even the salt shakers. 6 different cameras from 6 different angles. She'll sweep for bugs, one of Yuri's associates warned. A man named Dmitri, built like a tank, with prison tattoos and dead eyes. She's a professional. She'll have detection equipment. Let her find the obvious ones, Yuri said. We have backups she won't detect. Military-grade equipment. Gift from friend in Brighton Beach who used to work for FSB. Emma felt sick. She was in over her head, surrounded by criminals, planning to entrap a serial killer with help from the Russian mob. But it was too late to turn back now. At 8:45 p.m., Marcus took his position at the table. He had a duffel bag with him, not filled with $15 million that didn't have that kind of cash, but with stacks of paper cut to look like bills, topped with real hundreds to pass a casual inspection. Emma was behind the two-way mirror in the kitchen, watching through the glass. Yuri and his men were positioned throughout the building, in the basement, on the roof, in the alley. At exactly 9 p.m., the front door opened. Adriana walked in. She looked different. No designer clothes, no jewelry, no cane. She wore all black, tactical pants, a fitted jacket, boots. Her hair was pulled back. Her movements were efficient, controlled. This was the real Adriana, stripped of the socialite disguise. And behind her was a man Emma recognized for Brighton Beach. Sergei Kozlov, enforcer for a rival crime family. Killer for hire. This wasn't going to be a simple money exchange. This was an execution. Adriana walked slowly around the restaurant, pulling out a small device that beeped when it detected electronic signals. She found 3 of the recording devices immediately and crushed them under her boot. "Nice try," she said to Marcus. "But I've been doing this longer than you've been alive." She sat down across from him, Sergei standing behind her like a sentinel. "Where's your backup?" Adriana asked. "In the car. Waiting." "Liar. But it doesn't matter. Let's get this over with. Show me the money." Marcus unzipped the duffel bag, revealing the stacks of bills. Adriana smiled. "You actually brought it. I'm almost impressed." "I brought it. Now tell me why. Why me? What did I do to deserve this?" "You didn't do anything. You were just—" She paused, searching for the word convenient. "Rich enough to be worth it, lonely enough to be vulnerable, trusting enough to be easy. It's not personal. You were going to murder me, and it's not personal." Adriana shrugged. "It's business. I marry rich men. I inherit their money. I move on. You would have been number 4. Although," she leaned forward, "I have to admit, you lasted longer than the others. Gregory was dead in 3 months. You made it almost a year. I actually started to like you, but not enough to let me live. Sentiment doesn't pay the bills, Marcus." Behind the mirror, Emma's heart was racing. Adriana was confessing. She was actually confessing. The backup recording devices were capturing everything. "Tell me about the others," Marcus said. "Gregory, David, Mikhail. How did you do it? Why do you care?" "Because I want to understand. I want to know how someone becomes this." Adriana studied him, then laughed. It was a cold, brittle sound. "Fine. You want a confession?" Gregory was first. Sweet man, terrible in bed. Heart medication made it easy. I just increased his dosage gradually. He died in his sleep. Quick, clean. David was more complicated. Tech genius, paranoid as hell. I had to get creative. Made him think he was losing his mind. Gaslighting, they call it now. He started making mistakes. His company suffered. He got depressed. Then the digitalis. He thought he was having a breakdown. Wrote a suicide note and everything. She smiled at the memory. And Mikhail. Mikhail was the hardest. He had security, bodyguards, tasters for his food. But he had a weakness. He loved me. Trusted me completely. I poisoned his insulin. Slow, painful, but effective. By the time anyone suspected, I was the grieving widow, and all his money was in my accounts. And now me, and now you. Although honestly, Marcus, you're becoming more trouble than you're worth. This whole charade, the hospital escape, the blackmail, the money. You should have just died quietly. She stood up, and Sergei moved forward. "Kill him," Adriana said casually. "Make it look like a robbery. Then we'll deal with whoever's hiding in the kitchen." Sergei pulled out a gun fitted with a suppressor. That's when the lights went out. The restaurant plunged into absolute darkness. Emma heard shouts, the sound of furniture scraping, heavy footsteps moving fast. "It's a trap." Adriana's voice cut through the chaos. "Sergei, cover the exit." A gunshot. The suppressed weapon made a sound like a champagne cork popping, followed by the tinkle of a ricochet off metal. Emergency lights flickered on, dim red bulbs that cast everything in a hellish glow. Yuri's voice boomed from hidden speakers. "Adriana Volkov. That is your real name?" "Yes." "Born in Moscow, 1985. Former FSB intelligence operative turned contract killer. You are surrounded. Put down your weapons and surrender." Adriana laughed. "You think you're the first to try this?" "Sergei." The enforcer moved with professional speed, firing at the two-way mirror. Glass exploded. Emma ducked as shards rained down around her. But Yuri's men were ready. The basement door burst open. 3 men emerged, armed with what looked like riot gear. Body armor, shields, weapons Emma couldn't identify. The back door crashed in. 2 more men, Adriana and Sergei, were surrounded. "Last chance," Yuri called out. "We have your confession on tape. We have enough evidence to bury you. Surrender now, and we hand you to the FBI. Keep fighting, and we handle this the Brighton Beach way." For the first time, Emma saw fear flicker across Adriana's face. She was calculating odds, escape routes, options. This was supposed to be a simple execution. Instead, she'd walked into a coordinated ambush. "You can't touch me," Adriana said, but her voice wavered slightly. "I have protection. I have people." The Widow Syndicate. Yuri stepped into the light, flanked by two massive men. "We know. We've been tracking your organization for 3 years. You think you're the first crew to try running operations in Brighton Beach? You're small time. Amateurs playing at organized crime." "Sergey," Adriana hissed. "Get us out of here." Sergey raised his weapon, aiming at Yuri. And that's when Marcus did something incredibly stupid and incredibly brave. He lunged forward, tackling Sergey from behind. The gun went off. The bullet went wild, embedding itself in the ceiling. Marcus and Sergey crashed to the floor, grappling. Marcus was tech executive soft, no match for a professional killer. Sergey threw him off easily, raising the gun for a point-blank shot. Emma moved without thinking. She grabbed the nearest weapon, a heavy cast-iron skillet from the kitchen, and brought it down on Sergey's wrist with all her strength. Crack! The wrist broke. The gun clattered away. Sergey screamed. Yuri's men were on him in seconds, restraining him, forcing him face down on the floor. Adriana bolted. She was fast, FSB training, real athleticism, none of the fake disability she'd been performing for months. She sprinted toward the back exit with the speed of a professional operative. "Don't let her reach the door," Yuri shouted. But Adriana was already there, slamming through the exit into the alley, where she ran directly into Emma's younger brother, Danny. Danny Hayes, 19 years old, Hunter College freshman, holding a baseball bat and looking absolutely terrified, but standing his ground. "Hi," Danny said, voice shaking. "My sister says you threatened my family. I don't appreciate that." Adriana grabbed for the weapon in her jacket, a knife, small and deadly. Danny swung the bat. Thwack! It connected with Adriana's shoulder. Not hard enough to break bone, but hard enough to make her drop the knife. Emma burst through the door behind her. "Danny, get back." "Not a chance," Danny said, bat raised for another swing. "Nobody threatens Mom." Adriana was surrounded now. Yuri's men behind her, Danny in front, Emma to the side. She raised her hand slowly. "Smart choice," Yuri said, emerging from the restaurant. "Emma, call the police. Real ones this time. We're doing this legitimately." The police arrived in force 20 minutes later. NYPD, FBI, even representatives from the New York State Attorney General's office. Yuri had made calls, important calls, to people who wanted the Widow Syndicate shut down, who'd been building a case for years, but needed a witness willing to testify. Emma was that witness. So was Marcus. And now they had Adriana's full confession, recorded from multiple angles, impossible to dismiss. Adriana was arrested on the spot. So was Sergey. Detective Sarah Chun, a specialist in organized crime, took Emma's statement in the back of an ambulance while a paramedic checked her for injuries. "You took a massive risk," Chun said. "If this had gone wrong." "I know," Emma interrupted. "But nobody else was going to stop her. We've been tracking the Widow Syndicate for 3 years. We knew they were operating in New York, but we couldn't get concrete evidence. Victims' families didn't want autopsies. Toxicology reports came back clean, and the widows always had airtight alibis." Chun looked at Emma with respect. "You did in 48 hours what my entire task force couldn't do in 3 years. "I had help," Emma said, glancing at Yuri, who was giving his own statement to another detective. "Yeah, I noticed. We're going to have questions about your associates. They're just concerned citizens who don't like murderers operating in their neighborhood." Chun smiled slightly. "Right. Concerned citizens with military-grade surveillance equipment and weapons permits. Look, off the record, I don't care who helped you. You stopped a serial killer. That's what matters." She handed Emma her card. "You're going to need protection for a while. Adriana has connections, people who might try to retaliate. Stay in contact with me. If anything seems off, anything at all, you call me immediately." 3 hours later, Emma sat in Yuri's shop with Marcus and Danny, all of them exhausted and wired on adrenaline. I can't believe we actually did that, Danny said. He was still holding the baseball bat. I can't believe I hit someone with a bat. You saved my sister's life, Marcus said. Thank you. I saved both your lives, Danny corrected. That lady was crazy. Emma's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello. Emma Hayes. A woman's voice, professional, cool. Who is this? My name is Catherine Morrison. I represent certain interests related to Adriana Volkov's organization. I understand you were instrumental in her arrest tonight. Emma's blood ran cold. If you're calling to threaten me, quite the opposite. I'm calling to negotiate. You have information we need. Names, financial records, operational details. We're willing to pay very well for your cooperation. I'm not helping you. Then you're making an enemy of a very powerful organization, Miss Hayes. We have resources you can't imagine. We have people in positions of authority. Emma hung up. 30 seconds later, Detective Chin called. Emma, we just intercepted a call to your phone. Trace showed it came from a burner in New Jersey. Did someone threaten you? They tried. I hung up. Good. We're putting a protective detail on you and your family. These people don't give up easily. Emma looked at Marcus, at Danny, at Yuri. How long will this last? She asked Chun. Until we've dismantled the entire network. Could be weeks. Could be months. I have to work. I have bills to pay. A mother in hospice care. Actually, Marcus interrupted. I have a solution for that. Marcus Kane's penthouse apartment overlooked Central Park. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern art on the walls, furniture that probably cost more than Emma's annual salary. Emma stood awkwardly in the living room, feeling completely out of place. Coffee, Marcus offered, gesturing to an espresso machine that looked like it belonged in a spaceship. I'm okay, thanks. Marcus poured himself a cup, wincing slightly. He was still recovering from the poisoning. The doctor said it would take months for all the digitalis to clear his system. But he was alive. That's what mattered. I wanted to thank you properly, Marcus said, sitting down across from her. You saved my life. You risked your job, your safety, your family's well-being. I can never repay that. You don't have to repay anything. I want to, which is why I have a proposal. He pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. This is a job offer. Director of Security Operations for Kane Ventures. 6-figure salary, full benefits, stock options. Your job would be to do exactly what you did for me. Observe, notice details, protect the company from threats we don't see coming. Emma opened the folder, stared at the numbers. It was more money than she'd ever imagined making. Mr. Kane, I'm a waitress. I don't have training in corporate security. You have something better. You have instincts. You see what other people miss. That's worth more than any degree or certification. He leaned forward. Emma, you caught a serial killer that law enforcement couldn't find for 3 years. You orchestrated a sting operation that took down part of an international crime network. You did that with no resources, no training, just intelligence and courage. That's what I need in my organization. I don't know anything about business. You'll learn. I'll provide training, mentorship, whatever you need. But Emma, I'm not offering you this job out of charity or gratitude. I'm offering it because you're the most competent security specialist I've ever met, and I want you on my team. Emma was quiet for a long moment, thinking about her mother in hospice, about Danny's college tuition, about the double shifts at Aurelio's and the apartment in Bushwick with the broken heating. What about my mom, she asked. I can't afford her care on my own, even with this salary. Already handled. Kane Ventures has a healthcare fund for employees' families. Your mother will be transferred to a private facility, all expenses covered. And your brother's tuition? Full scholarship to any school he wants. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. Why are you doing this? Because you deserve it. And because I need people I can trust. Marcus's expression turned serious. Adriana's arrest is just the beginning. The Widow Syndicate is bigger than one woman. They have operations in 6 cities, connections to intelligence agencies, money laundering networks. The FBI is building a case, but it's going to take time. In the meantime, there will be retaliation attempts. Against me, against both of us. You exposed them. I testified against them. We're marked. He gestured to the windows. This building has security that rivals most government facilities. If you work for me, You and your family live here. Protected. Safe. You want us to move in here. Separate apartments. Plenty of space. Or, if you prefer, I'll set you up in any building in the city with equivalent security. But Emma, if you're going to work for me, I need to know you're protected. I can't lose another person I trust. The weight of the offer settled over her. This wasn't just a job. It was a complete life change. From invisible waitress to corporate executive. From Bushwick to Manhattan. From struggling to financially secure. Can I think about it? Emma asked. Take all the time you need. The offer stands for as long as you want. Emma walked through Central Park on her way back to Brooklyn. She needed to think, to process everything that had happened in the past 72 hours. Her phone rang. Detective Chun. Emma, we have a problem. Adriana's being transferred to federal custody tomorrow. During transport, there's going to be a vulnerability window, about 30 seconds when a motorcade passes through a construction zone on the BQE. Intel suggests her people might try a rescue attempt. What do you need me to do? Nothing. We've got it covered. I'm just warning you to stay off the streets tomorrow between 2 and 4 p.m. If there's an attempt and it fails, they might redirect their anger toward witnesses. You, Marcus, even your family. I'll make sure we're somewhere safe. Good. Also, Emma, there's something you should know. We ran Adriana's fingerprints through international databases. She's got a file with Interpol going back 15 years. Before she was a Black Widow, she was an assassin. Political targets, high-value contracts. She's killed at least 20 people that we know of. Emma felt her stomach drop. 20, probably more. The widow scheme was her retirement plan. Easier than assassination, more profitable, lower risk. Until you caught her. After Chin hung up, Emma stood in the park, watching joggers and dog walkers and tourists taking selfies. Normal people living normal lives, completely unaware that a serial killer had been operating in their city or that a waitress from Bushwick had stopped her. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from an unknown number. You took something from us. We'll take something from you. Watch your back, Emma Hayes. She forwarded the message to Chun, then called Marcus. I'm taking the job, she said, and I'm moving my family into your building tomorrow. Smart decision. I'll have everything arranged by this evening. Emma hung up and looked at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, the Widow Syndicate was regrouping, planning, preparing their next move. But for the first time in her life, Emma wasn't scared. She'd faced down a killer and won. Whatever came next, she'd be ready. 3 months later, the federal courthouse in Manhattan looked like a fortress. Security checkpoints, metal detectors, armed marshals on every floor. The trial of Adriana Volkov, the name she'd been born with, the name that had been buried under layers of false identities, was the biggest criminal case in New York in a decade. Emma sat in the witness waiting room, wearing a suit Marcus had bought her. Professional, expensive, so different from her old waitress uniform that she barely recognized herself in the mirror. Detective Chun sat beside her, reviewing her testimony one more time. They're going to come at you hard, Chun warned. Adriana's defense team is top tier. They'll try to discredit you, make you seem unreliable, suggest you were working with Marcus to frame her. I'm ready. Are you? Because they're going to bring up your family's financial situation. They're going to suggest you had motive to fabricate evidence for money. They're going to question why a waitress would risk her life for a stranger unless there was something in it for her. The truth is the truth. I know what I saw. Chin nodded. Good. Remember, answer only what's asked. Don't volunteer information. Don't get emotional. Just state the facts. The door opened. A bailiff appeared. Miss Hayes? You're up. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, spectators, family members of Adriana's previous victims who'd come seeking justice. Adriana sat at the defense table in a demure blue dress, her hair pulled back, looking like a Sunday school teacher. The transformation was remarkable. Gone was the tactical operative from that night in Brighton Beach. In her place was a fragile, sympathetic woman who looked incapable of violence. But Emma knew better. She'd seen the real Adriana. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Jennifer Torres, led Emma through her testimony. The dinner at Aurelio's, the suspicious movements, the water glass, the tattoo, the confrontation in Brighton Beach. Emma spoke clearly, calmly, reciting facts. Then came the cross-examination. Adriana's lawyer, a man named Richard Holloway who charged $1,500 an hour, approached with a friendly smile. "Miss Hayes, you testified that you saw my client put something in Mr. Kane's water glass. Is that correct?" "Yes." "And you were standing where, exactly?" "At the server station, about 20 feet away." 20 feet. Through a kitchen pass-through window. At night. In a dimly lit restaurant. And you clearly saw a small vial, smaller than your thumb, being opened and poured into a glass. "Yes. That's remarkable eyesight, Miss Hayes. Do you wear corrective lenses?" "No." "Have you ever been tested for visual acuity?" "Not professionally." "So you're claiming perfect vision, sharp enough to see details at 20 feet in low light, yet you've never had it medically verified?" Emma kept her voice steady. "I know what I saw. Or perhaps," Holloway suggested smoothly, "you saw what you wanted to see. You testified that you were working double shifts to pay off your father's debts. You were under financial stress, exhausted, working long hours. Isn't it possible that what you thought you saw was actually your mind filling in gaps, creating a narrative that would later prove very profitable for you?" "Objection." Torres stood. "Counsel is speculating." "Sustained," the judge said. "Mr. Holloway, stick to the facts." "Of course, Your Honor." Holloway turned back to Emma. "Miss Hayes, isn't it true that immediately after this alleged incident, Mr. Kane offered you a six-figure job with his company?" "Not immediately. The job offer came later, after, but he did offer you employment. Significant employment. Employment that changed your financial situation completely." "Yes, but..." "And isn't it true that your mother was moved from a standard hospice facility to a luxury private care center, all expenses paid by Mr. Kane?" "That's part of the employee benefits package." "And your brother's college tuition, also paid by Mr. Kane?" "Yes." Holloway smiled at the jury. "So to be clear, you testified against my client, and as a result, you received approximately $200,000 in direct compensation, plus housing in a luxury Manhattan penthouse, plus healthcare benefits worth tens of thousands more. Quite a windfall for a waitress, wouldn't you say?" Emma felt anger flare, but kept her voice calm. "Mr. Kane offered me that job because I saved his life, not because I testified. The job came first. Did it? Or did Mr. Kane, a smart businessman, realize he needed to secure your loyalty before this trial? Make sure you'd stick to the story he needed you to tell." "Objection." Torres was on her feet. "Your Honor, counsel is implying witness tampering without any evidence." Sustained. "Mr. Holloway, last warning." But the damage was done. Emma could see some jury members looking at her differently, calculating, wondering if she'd been bought. Holloway moved on to the tattoo. "You testified you saw a spider and dagger tattoo on my client's ankle. A tattoo you claim identifies her as part of a criminal organization." "Yes." "And where did you acquire this expertise in gang tattoos, Miss Hayes?" "I grew up in Brighton Beach. I learned to recognize certain symbols." "I see. And did you photograph this tattoo?" "No, I didn't have the opportunity." "Did you document it in any way?" "I described it to Detective Chun." "But you have no physical evidence of this tattoo. No photograph, no video, nothing but your word." "That's correct." "Interesting. Because my client was examined during booking. A full body inspection, photographed and documented. And there is no tattoo on her ankle. No spider, no dagger, nothing." Emma's heart skipped. "That's impossible." "I saw it. Did you? Or did you, once again, see what you wanted to see?" Holloway pulled out photos from the defense table. "These are the official booking photos. Would you like to review them?" Emma looked at the photos. Adriana's ankle was bare. Smooth skin, no tattoo. She covered it, Emma said. "Makeup or laser removal." "So now you're suggesting my client underwent laser tattoo removal between the restaurant incident and her arrest, just to discredit your testimony?" "I know what I saw." "You keep saying that, Miss Hayes, but the evidence doesn't support your claims." Holloway walked back to his table. "No further questions." Emma stepped down from the witness stand feeling shaken. She'd known this would be hard, but having her credibility attacked, her integrity questioned, it stung. Marcus was waiting in the hallway. "You did great," he said. I look like a liar who sold her testimony for money and imagined tattoos that don't exist. The jury knows the truth. They saw the recordings from Brighton Beach. They heard Adriana's confession, which her lawyers are claiming was coerced. That we threatened her, that she only said those things because Sergey had a gun to her head. Emma. Marcus grabbed her shoulders gently. We have toxicology reports showing digitalis in my system. We have pattern evidence from her previous husbands. We have financial records showing she inherited millions. The jury has all the pieces. Your testimony was just one part. Detective Chin approached. The prosecution is resting today. Defense starts tomorrow. They're going to put Adriana on the stand. She's going to testify. Emma was shocked. Defense attorneys rarely let their clients testify. Too much risk. She insisted. She thinks she can charm the jury, play the victim. She's going to claim Marcus became obsessed with her, that when she tried to break up with him, he staged this whole conspiracy to destroy her. Will the jury believe that? We're about to find out. The next day, Adriana took the stand. She was brilliant. She cried at the right moments, her voice breaking when she described how Marcus had changed after she tried to end their relationship. How he'd become controlling, paranoid, accusing her of things she'd never done. I loved him, she said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. I wanted to marry him, but he became so unstable. The pressure of his business, the stress, it changed him. He started making wild accusations, saying I was poisoning him, saying I'd killed other people. It was like he was having a breakdown. And the night at the Brighton Beach restaurant, her lawyer asked. He called me, said he wanted to meet. I was worried about him, so I went, and I walked into an ambush. Men with guns, threats, torture. They made me say things, confess to crimes I didn't commit. I was terrified. I thought they were going to kill me. It was a masterful performance. Some jury members were nodding sympathetically. Then came the prosecution's cross-examination. Torres stood, holding a thick folder. Ms. Volkov, you testified that you loved Marcus Kane and wanted to marry him. Is that correct? Yes. Then why, 3 weeks before his collapse at the restaurant, did you contact a lawyer about divorce proceedings? Adriana froze. I don't recall. You don't recall? Torres pulled out documents. These are emails between you and attorney Harold Breslin. In them, you discuss prenuptial agreements, asset division, and specifically, she read from the email, strategies for maximizing settlement if spouse dies before divorce is finalized. Does that refresh your memory? Adriana's composure cracked slightly. I was just exploring options. You were planning his death. You were setting up your legal strategy before he was even dead. Torres moved closer. And this isn't the first time, is it? We have similar emails from your previous marriages. To Gregory Wolf, David Volkov, Mikhail Sokolov. In each case, you contacted lawyers about asset protection weeks before their deaths. In each case, you discussed life insurance policies. In each case, you positioned yourself to inherit everything. Those men died of natural causes. Did they? Torres pulled out more documents. We exhumed Gregory Wolf's body. New toxicology tests found digitalis. Same with David Volkov. Mikhail Sokolov was cremated, so we can't test him, but his medical records show cardiac symptoms consistent with digitalis poisoning. 3 husbands, 3 deaths, 3 inheritances. And now Marcus Kane, who would have been number 4 if Emma Hayes hadn't intervened. Adriana's mask was slipping. Emma could see rage flickering in her eyes. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. You're a predator. You target wealthy, lonely men. You seduce them, marry them, poison them, and steal their fortunes. You've been doing it for 15 years. And you would have gotten away with it if a waitress hadn't noticed what everyone else missed. Torres turned to the jury. Emma Hayes had everything to lose by coming forward. Her job, her safety, her family's well-being. But she did it anyway, because it was right, because she knew if she didn't, Marcus Kane would be dead. Just like Gregory, David, and Mikhail. She looked back at Adriana. No further questions. Adriana was dismissed from the stand, her carefully constructed victim narrative in ruins. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Emma Hayes stood in her new office at Kane Ventures, looking out over Manhattan. 3 months ago, she'd been serving drinks. Now, she was director of security operations, with a team of 12 people reporting to her. It still felt surreal. Her phone buzzed. Detective Chun. Adriana's sentencing is tomorrow, Chun said. Prosecution is asking for life without parole. Will they get it? 4 counts of murder, multiple counts of fraud, conspiracy. She's never getting out. But Emma, I need to warn you. We've intercepted chatter from the Widow Syndicate. They're not happy about the conviction. They're planning something. What kind of something? We're not sure, but increase surveillance on you and Marcus. Be vigilant. Emma hung up, feeling the familiar prickle of unease. The trial was over, but the danger wasn't. That night, she was working late when her new security phone rang. The encrypted one Marcus had given her that only 5 people had the number 4. Unknown caller. She answered cautiously. Hello. Emma Hayes. A woman's voice, smooth and cultured. We need to talk. Who is this? My name is Katrina Volkov. Adriana is my sister. Emma's blood ran cold. If you're calling to threaten me, I'm calling to negotiate. My sister made mistakes. She got careless, arrogant. But the organization she worked for, we're not going anywhere. We have operations in 12 countries. We have 30 active operatives. Shutting down one woman doesn't shut us down. Then the FBI will shut you down operation by operation. Will they? Katrina laughed. We have friends in very high places, Emma. Judges, politicians, law enforcement. People who owe us favors. People who've used our services. The trial was entertaining, but ultimately meaningless. Your sister is going to prison for the rest of her life. I'd call that meaningful. True, which is why I'm giving you a chance. Walk away. Resign from your position with Kane Ventures. Disappear somewhere quiet, and we'll leave you and your family alone. And if I refuse, then we demonstrate what happens to people who interfere with our business. Your mother is in a care facility in Queens. Very nice place, but even nice places have accidents. Medication errors, overdoses, equipment malfunctions. Emma felt rage flood through her. You touch my mother. We won't have to touch anyone if you're smart. You have 48 hours to resign and leave New York. After that, consequences will follow. The line went dead. Emma immediately called Chun, then Marcus, then security for her mother's facility. I'm moving her tonight, Marcus said. My building has medical facilities. She'll be safer here. They're not going to stop, Emma said. As long as I'm visible, as long as I'm working for you, I'm a target. Then we make you too expensive to kill. We surround you with so much security, so much public attention, that any attempt on your life would bring immediate investigation. Or, Emma said slowly, we take the fight to them. What do you mean? Chen said the Widow Syndicate has operations in 12 countries. That means infrastructure, money laundering, front companies. What if we didn't wait for them to come after us? What if we went after them first? Marcus was quiet for a moment. You want to declare war on an international crime syndicate. They already declared war on me. I'm just suggesting we fight back smarter. Emma pulled up her computer. I have access to all of Adriana's records now. Emails, financial transactions, contacts. What if we use that information to identify their other operatives, their money sources, their protection network? And then we expose them, one by one. We make it impossible for them to operate. Emma, that's incredibly dangerous. More dangerous than waiting for them to kill my mother. More dangerous than looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life. She met his eyes. I didn't survive Adriana just to spend the rest of my life hiding. If they want a war, let's give them one. Over the next 3 weeks, Emma and her security team worked 16-hour days, mapping the Widow Syndicate's operations. They identified 13 active operatives across North America and Europe. They traced money through shell companies in the Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, and Singapore. They found patterns, the same lawyers, the same medical examiners, the same investment firms appearing in case after case. Detective Chun connected them with FBI's International Organized Crime Unit. Marcus used his tech connections to access databases most people didn't know existed. And slowly, methodically, they built a case. Then, Exactly 48 hours after Katrina's phone call, the retaliation began. Emma was leaving the office late when her car wouldn't start. The building's security team checked it and found the brake lines had been cut. The next day, Danny's apartment in Hunter College housing was broken into. Nothing was stolen, but a message was spray-painted on his wall. Tick-tock. The day after that, Emma's mother's medication was tampered with. Only quick action by the nursing staff prevented a lethal overdose. "They're sending a message," Chun said during an emergency meeting. "They want you scared." "It's working," Emma admitted. "But I'm not backing down." "Then we need to move faster. We have enough evidence to arrest at least 5 operatives. If we move simultaneously, coordinate with Interpol." "Do it," Marcus said. "Whatever resources you need, whatever support, you have it." Chun made the call. 72 hours later, simultaneous raids occurred in New York, Los Angeles, London, Paris, and Prague. 5 operatives arrested. 2 killed resisting arrest. Millions in assets frozen. The Widow Syndicate was bleeding. But cornered animals are the most dangerous. The attack came on a Tuesday morning. Emma was in her office reviewing security footage when her door burst open. A man she'd never seen before, wearing a delivery uniform, holding a gun with a suppressor. "Don't move," he said. Emma's hand was already under her desk, hitting the silent alarm. "Katrina sends her regards," the man said, raising the weapon. A gunshot, but not from his gun. Marcus's head of security, a former Navy SEAL named Rodriguez, had been in the adjoining office. He'd heard the commotion and responded instantly. The assassin went down, blood blooming across his shoulder. Rodriguez kicked the gun away, already calling for backup, for medical, for police. Emma sat frozen at her desk, her ears ringing. "You okay?" Rodriguez asked. "I think so." The assassin was still conscious, groaning in pain. Rodriguez zip-tied his hands. "Who sent you?" Rodriguez demanded. The man laughed wetly. "You think this is over? We have 20 more just like me. You can't hide forever." Chun arrived 30 minutes later with a team of federal agents. "This just became a federal case," she said. "Attempted murder of a material witness. We can use this to get warrants for the entire syndicate." But Emma wasn't listening. She was thinking about something the assassin had said. "You can't hide forever." He was right. She couldn't hide. Her family couldn't hide. There was only one way to end this. She needed to draw them out. All of them. And she needed bait they couldn't resist. "I have an idea," Emma said. "But you're going to think it's crazy." "I already think you're crazy," Chun said. "What's the idea?" "We announced that I have evidence. Complete records of every Widow Syndicate operation for the last 20 years. Names, financials, everything. We leak it to the press. Make me the most valuable target they have." "That's suicide," Marcus said immediately. "They'll send everyone they have." "Exactly. We know they're coming. We choose the location. We control the environment. We turn the trap around on them. And if it goes wrong," Chun asked, "then I die. But at least I die fighting instead of waiting for them to kill my family one by one." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "It could work, if we plan it right. If we have enough backup." "I can get backup," Marcus said. "Private security, former military, people who owe me favors. We make it a fortress." Chun was quiet, thinking. The Bureau would never officially sanction this. But off the record, if you could lure the entire syndicate's leadership to one location, if we could arrest them all at once. "We'd cut the head off the snake," Emma finished. "Or," Chun said, "we'd just make them angrier." "This is your life, Emma. Your choice." Emma thought about her mother, about Danny, about the future she'd been building. She thought about all the women the Widow Syndicate had trained, all the men they'd killed, all the families they destroyed. "Let's do it," she said. The press conference was held at Kane Ventures headquarters. Every major news outlet in New York attended. Emma Hayes, former Waitress turned security director, stood at a podium and made an announcement that would change everything. 3 months ago, I witnessed Adriana Volkov attempting to murder Marcus Kane. My testimony helped convict her of multiple murders. Today, I'm announcing that I have in my possession complete records of the Widow Syndicate's operations, financial documents, communications, lists of operatives and targets. This information will be released to law enforcement agencies worldwide in 72 hours unless the syndicate's leadership surrenders themselves for arrest. The room erupted with questions. Emma ignored them all, reading from her prepared statement. The evidence will be stored at a secure location. If anything happens to me or my family before the 72-hour deadline, the information will be released immediately. This is not a negotiation. This is an ultimatum. You have 3 days. She walked off the podium as reporters shouted questions. The trap was set. The location Emma chose was an abandoned warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn. 3 stories, steel and concrete, overlooking the water. Marcus had purchased it through a shell company, then had it reinforced, security cameras, reinforced doors, defensive positions. It's a kill box, Rodriguez said approvingly. Multiple entry points, but all funneling to the same central area. If they come in force, we see them coming. Emma's team consisted of Rodriguez and 4 other former special operations soldiers Marcus had hired. Detective Chun and 2 FBI agents were positioned in a surveillance van 3 blocks away, close enough to intervene, far enough to maintain plausible deniability. Emma sat in the center of the warehouse at a simple metal desk, a laptop in front of her. The evidence she claimed to have. Except the laptop was empty. There was no evidence. It was all a bluff. But the Widow Syndicate didn't know that. How long do you think before they come? Emma asked Rodriguez. Not 3 days. They can't risk you actually releasing the information. I'd say 12 hours, maybe less. And when they do, we arrest them if possible. Eliminate them if necessary. Rodriguez checked his weapon. You sure about this? No. But I'm doing it anyway. 8 hours later, at 3 a.m., the first assault team arrived. The warehouse cameras picked up 6 figures approaching from the waterfront. Military movement, tactical gear, suppressed weapons. They're here, Rodriguez said into his comm. All units, weapons free if they breach. The assault team reached the north entrance, planted explosives on the door. Let them in, Emma said. We want them inside. The door blew. 6 operatives flooded into the warehouse, weapons raised, moving with professional precision. They reached the central area where Emma sat calmly at her desk. Emma Hayes, the lead operative, said. He was wearing a balaclava, voice distorted by a modulator. You have something that belongs to us. Do I? Emma asked. The files. Hand them over and you live. And if I refuse, then you die slowly. We've been very patient with you, Miss Hayes. Our patience has expired. I bet it has, Emma said. Must be frustrating. Losing your leader, losing operatives, losing money. All because a waitress noticed something she shouldn't have. Where are the files? The operative shouted, losing composure. There are no files, Emma said calmly. Silence. What? I lied. There's no evidence, no records, nothing. I made it all up to draw you out. Because I knew you couldn't resist trying to silence me. The operative raised his weapon. You're dead. Federal agents. Chen's voice boomed through speakers. Drop your weapons and get on the ground now. FBI tactical teams burst from concealed positions throughout the warehouse. Rodriguez and his team emerged from the shadows, weapons trained. The operatives were surrounded. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the lead operative made his choice. He fired at Emma. Rodriguez fired back, hitting the operative in the chest. Body armor stopped the bullet, but the impact knocked him down. Chaos erupted. Gunfire from multiple directions, flashbangs, smoke. Emma dove behind her metal desk as bullets sparked off the concrete around her. The firefight lasted 90 seconds. When the smoke cleared, 4 operatives were dead. 2 were wounded and in custody. Emma emerged from behind the desk, shaking but unhurt. Clear, Rodriguez called out. Building secured. Chen approached, looking furious. That was the stupidest, most reckless thing I've ever seen. Did it work? Emma asked. 6 operatives captured or killed. We could trace their communications back to the leadership. Yeah, it worked. But Emma, you could have died. But I didn't. One of the wounded operatives was being treated by medics. Emma approached him. Where's Katrina? She demanded. The man laughed, blood staining his teeth. You think she'd come herself? She sent us. She always sends others to do the dangerous work. Then tell me where she is. Why would I? Because if you don't, you're looking at life in prison for attempted murder of a federal witness. But if you cooperate, if you give us Katrina, maybe we can work out a deal. The operative looked at Chun. You FBI? I am. What kind of deal? Depends on what you give us. Location, contacts, operational details. The more you provide, the better your situation. The man was quiet for a long moment, calculating odds. She's in Canada, he finally said. Montreal, running operations from there, because she can't risk entering the U.S. But there's a meeting scheduled for next week. All the regional leaders, consolidating after Adriana's arrest. If you move fast, where? Chun demanded. The operative gave them an address. 20 minutes later, Chun was on the phone with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, coordinating a joint operation. Emma sat on the warehouse floor, exhausted. Marcus arrived, having watched the whole thing from the surveillance van. You're insane, he said, sitting beside her. I know. That was the bravest, most terrifying thing I've ever witnessed. It's over, though. We got them. Some of them. But Emma, you heard what he said. Regional leaders, consolidation. This organization is bigger than we thought. We didn't cut off the head. We just pruned some branches. Emma closed her eyes. So what do? We keep fighting. Together. 6 months later, the Montreal operation had been a success. Katrina Volkov and 4 other Widow Syndicate leaders were arrested in a coordinated raid. 17 operatives were captured across 3 countries. The syndicate wasn't destroyed. Organizations like that never truly die, but it was crippled, scattered, its infrastructure dismantled. Emma Hayes was finally safe. She stood in Marcus Kane's penthouse, overlooking Central Park, watching the sun set over Manhattan. Her mother had been moved to a permanent care facility within the building, the best hospice care money could buy. Patricia Hayes was comfortable, pain-free, surrounded by family. The cancer was terminal, but she was at peace. Danny had graduated Hunter College with honors and was now working at Kane Ventures in their cybersecurity division. Turned out he had a talent for spotting patterns, for seeing threats before they materialized. Just like his sister. You leaving? Marcus asked, approaching with 2 glasses of wine. Meeting Detective Chun for dinner. She says she has news. Good news or bad news? With Chun, it could be either. Emma took the offered wine glass. Over the past 6 months, her relationship with Marcus had evolved. They weren't romantic, too much trauma, too much history, but they were partners. Friends. Family, in the way that people who've survived impossible things together become family. I've been thinking, Marcus said, about expanding the security division, creating a specialized unit that deals specifically with financial predators, con artists, schemes that target the wealthy and vulnerable. Like an anti-fraud task force. Exactly. And I want you to run it. Not just for Kane Ventures, but as a separate entity. We'd partner with law enforcement, offer protection services, investigative support. Make it harder for people like Adriana to operate. Emma considered it. That'll make me a target again. For every organization we shut down, we'd make enemies. True, but you've never been good at staying safe and invisible anyway. Emma smiled. No, I haven't. So what do you say? Want to spend the rest of your career hunting Black Widows? I'll think about it. The restaurant where Emma met Detective Chun was a small Italian place in the village. Cozy, quiet, nothing like the high-end establishment where this all began. Chun was already at the table, looking pleased with herself. You look happy, Emma said, sitting down. Did something good happen? Interpol just made their final arrests in the Widow Syndicate case. 32 operatives total. 6 different countries. It's over, Emma. We actually did it. Emma felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It's really over? Well, we're still tracking assets, following money trails, building cases against their support network. But the active kill teams? Disbanded. The leadership? Either in custody or dead. You're safe. What about Adriana? Life without parole at ADX Florence. She'll spend the rest of her life in a supermax cell. Chun paused. She asked to speak with you. Emma's stomach tightened. What? She wouldn't say, but her attorney reached out through official channels. She want to visit. No. I figured you'd say that. But Emma, she claims she has information. Something that could help us locate the last of their financial reserves. Money that could be returned to victims' families. It's a trick, a manipulation. Probably. But what if it's not? What if there's a chance to recover even some of what was stolen? Emma was quiet for a long moment. If I go with protection. Armed guards, recording equipment, the whole thing. Absolutely. I'll arrange it. 2 weeks later, Emma Hayes walked through the security checkpoints at ADX Florence, the Supermax federal prison in the Colorado mountains. The facility housed the worst of the worst: terrorists, serial killers, mob bosses. Adriana Volkov fit right in. She was brought into the visitation room in shackles, wearing an orange jumpsuit. Her blonde hair was growing out, showing dark roots. Without makeup, without designer clothes, she looked older. Harder. But her eyes were the same. Cold. Calculating. Emma, Adriana said, sitting down across the bulletproof glass. Thank you for coming. I'm here for the information, not for you. Where's the money? Adriana smiled. Right to business. I always admire that about you. No pretense, no games. Just direct action. The money, Adriana. There's a bank in Geneva. Account number. She rattled off a long series of digits. $8 million. Proceeds from David Volkov's estate that I never got to access. The victims' families should have it. Emma wrote it down, then slid the paper under the glass partition. A guard would verify it before she left. That's it, Emma asked. That's all you wanted? To give me bank information you could have provided to your lawyer? No. I wanted to see you. To understand. Adriana leaned forward. You had everything to lose, nothing to gain. And yet you fought. You risked your life, your family, your entire future to stop me. Why? Because it was right. But why does right matter to you? Most people, when faced with that choice, save themselves or save a stranger. They choose themselves. I built my entire career on that fact. People are selfish, predictable, easy to manipulate. But you, she shook her head. You're different. Is that what you wanted to know? Why I'm different? No. I wanted to understand if you regret it. If you wish you just kept quiet, stayed invisible. Let me kill Marcus and move on. Emma looked at the woman who'd tried to kill her, who'd threatened her family, who'd murdered at least 4 people and ruined countless lives. Not for a second, Emma said. Every choice I made, I'd make again. Adriana nodded slowly. Then you really are the most dangerous kind of enemy. You can't be bought, can't be threatened, can't be manipulated. You're driven by something I never learned to understand. Conscience, faith, in goodness, in justice, in the idea that doing the right thing matters, even when it costs you everything. Adriana smiled sadly. I almost envy you. Good. Emma said, standing up. Spend the rest of your life in this cell, envying the waitress who destroyed you. She walked out without looking back. 1 year later, Emma Hayes stood at a podium in front of 200 people. Law enforcement professionals, victim advocates, security experts. She was the keynote speaker at the first annual Financial Crimes Prevention Summit. 3 years ago, I was a waitress in Manhattan, she began. I made minimum wage plus tips. I worked double shifts to pay my father's debts. I was invisible to the wealthy people I served. They looked through me, not at me. She paused, letting that sink in. But being invisible gave me something valuable. It gave me the ability to observe without being noticed, to see patterns, details, things that others missed. And one night, that ability saved a life. She told the story, abbreviated, simplified, but true. The water glass, the tattoo, the reflex that couldn't be faked. The Widow Syndicate operated for over 2 decades, Emma continued. They killed at least 20 people that we know of, stole hundreds of millions of dollars. They survived because they understood psychology, because they exploited loneliness and trust and the fundamental human desire to be loved. She clicked to the next slide, showing photographs of Adriana's victims. These men died because nobody was paying attention. Nobody noticed the pattern. Nobody connected the dots. But patterns exist if we know how to look for them. She spent the next 40 minutes teaching law enforcement how to recognize financial predators, how to identify red flags, how to protect vulnerable targets. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. Detective Chun approached after the speech. You're a natural at this. I'm just sharing what I learned. You're doing more than that. You're changing how we approach these crimes. The FBI has already adopted your framework. We're training agents specifically to look for these patterns now. Marcus appeared, Danny beside him. Fantastic presentation, Marcus said. The new office is ready, by the way. Kane Security Solutions officially opens next week. Our first client meeting is Wednesday, Danny added. A widow in Connecticut who thinks her financial advisor is embezzling from her late husband's estate. Emma smiled. This was the work now. Not dramatic confrontations and shootouts, but careful, methodical investigation. Protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. Ready to get back to work? Marcus asked. Always. As they left the conference center, Emma caught sight of her reflection in the glass doors. She barely recognized herself. Professional clothes, confident posture, surrounded by people who respected her expertise. 3 years ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was anything but. And somewhere in a supermax prison in Colorado, Adriana Volkov sat in a cell, thinking about the waitress who had seen what everyone else missed. The waitress who had changed everything. The end. Final viewer engagement. 30 seconds. What an incredible journey. Emma went from invisible waitress to criminal investigator, from serving drinks to saving lives, and building a company that protects others. Now I want your thoughts. 1. Which moment shocked you the most? The salt shaker catch, the tattoo discovery, or the final warehouse trap? 2. Would you have had the courage to speak up like Emma did? 3. Do you think Adriana's last conversation was genuine, or was she still manipulating Emma? Drop your answers in the comments. If you love this story, smash that like button. Subscribe for more incredible true crime-style romance and thriller stories. And hit the bell so you never miss our next upload. Share this with anyone who loves underdog stories, crime thrillers, or people who prove that being underestimated is the ultimate superpower. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Fork and Knife Skull Sparkles.